Greetings everyone, and welcome to the BlastCast. I am Jarvis, and with me as always is the man who's giving me his alternate points of view, Lightning Dragon. So, what we want to talk about today is the new automated gimbal system. There's a couple different ways it works. There's the focus mode, there's the fixed weapons, which do a little bit of tracking, and then there is the little circle they give you, which you have to keep the enemy in there, keep it lined up, and then the guns will track within that. It's very useful for stick users, and I'm using the Freelancer Miss here because, well, I've talked a lot about how I can't use gimbals in the Freelancer effectively. I had to lock the guns, and that's the end of it. Now, this is the first time I've ever taken, I think, the Miss out for battle because, well, as I said, using the Freelancer is kind of a pain before this point in time. And as you can see, there's no radar on the ship, and the follow me arrows aren't working they work off and on, so it's a little difficult to find enemies because, well, there's a lot of view blocked with the Freelancer, as anyone knows. So how this works is as you line them up in the middle of the circle, it goes one more solid. Now what you have to choose is try to get in this case, the lag pips closer to the target when you fire. As I said, I haven't really spent much time flying the ship at all because of the combat issues, but this ship is actually pretty brutal. Way more brutal than I would have expected. I think Lightning can agree watching. Now, the guns on the Freelancer, if you'll notice, like the one on the right didn't track completely successfully. I'd imagine that's a bug, and they'll get better at that as time goes by. But it's very, very interesting. So there's a lot of controversy right now on the forums about how this system works, and a lot of knee-jerk responses, basically like this is the end of the game and things like that. It's too good and whatnot. Of course, this is Tier 0 implementation, and they're going to make tweaks and revisions to it. But right now, there's absolutely no reason to keep IM in the game anymore because we finally have a universal system, which is it's kind of ironic. We're back around to 0.8 to a degree in that regards, but we finally have a system that we can all benefit from. And there's no reason to try to balance around one mode on one controller. Now, right now in the persistent universe, or even in the game in general, there's not a lot of ways to dodge missiles. It's pretty hard, particularly when you're in something like the Freelancer. The best way to get these guns to work is you have to keep it as centered as possible, because typically one of your guns just goes astray, but it really, really rips things up. And it seems to have a pretty strong defense. Now, one of the things that people are talking about is that, you know, it does make Arena Commander easy, and it does. I won't lie. I mean, I got all the way through this 15 waves, didn't even lose the ship. You know, it was very straightforward. But that has to partially do with the AI, because it does weird things like just, well, stopping. How did that guy lose his tail already? Anyway, so you know, it does things like it'll just park in front of you for some reason, and so it does make it simple. But the AI is going to take a while to tune in, especially since they've been revising the flight model, and I would expect, you know, more revisions to come. And every time they make a major change like that, you know, they're going to have to go back and retool everything. Now,
you also can't forget that these are 4 size 3 Gatling guns with the damage disparity. You know.
That is true. That they're pretty brutal. But people playing, yeah, the missiles part of the MIS. But people playing PvP have said that it's actually not as overpowered when it comes to PvP. One of the things I have noticed with this system is that there's like a sweet spot for range. You get too far and the projectile velocity makes it so that even the AI can kind of slip away from most of it. You get too close, the weapons can't track effectively. So there is that sweet spot distance. Now that goes back along the lines of what we've talked about before with projectile velocities, and you can change the dynamics of how all this works with projectile velocities along with, you know, ship acceleration rates and whatnot. So this is part of that delicate balance that needs to be worked out. This is why I said 6 to 9 months for them to get everything together and figure out what they need to do. But like you see out here, as you get closer, the damage can start ramping up under 1,000. I think it's like 1,000 to 700 is what I was noticing was a pretty good sweet spot. Unless the ship was larger, in that case your sweet spot obviously was, you had a lot more leeway. for being far and being close. This ship actually just cuts through cutlasses like butter. It's kind of scary, actually. Now, one of the things I am liking, particularly as I'm learning this ship during this course of this battle, this is the first time ever taking it out for battle, I could really feel the mass and weight of the ship. And I think it only accelerates right around the range of 3.4 G's forward acceleration. So it does really feel like you have to, the rotations don't instantly stop and start. It feels like you really have to fight for everything to get underneath control. And maybe it's a bit too powerful in some regards, because I would imagine that 3.4 or so G, that's actually set at 4.4 there. The point is, though, is that it feels like it's still, and this is maybe coming from my DCS perspective, that it still feels a little bit like you would expect a real-world fighter to act as more of a starting point. And maybe that's my DCS bias in there, but it does feel good, though.
This ship you're targeting is just a bunch of chunks.
Yeah, they got this issue with the radar systems. And I remember Chris Roberts said in Reverse the Verse that basically the whole UI is going to be redone. The one system they have right now, everything's done in Flash, and they're making a whole new system. And that's why we haven't seen the upgrades in visibility. Like you can see here, it's hard to see my HUD because the blue is blending on the blue. The red is kind of a light red, and it's hard to read or see anything. And we're not going to see any real changes to that until they do this whole rework of the HUD system. I don't know why he's just parking there like that. That's the AI. This is why killing and this is so easy against the AI, because they do a heck of a lot of just parking there. The good thing about the circle system, to a large degree, is that I'm more focused on, I guess, positioning and and that's, I'm using that term very loosely, because I still feel that projectile velocities and things like that, it feels like a little bit like it's still too easy. And maybe I said once again that could be the AI like coming straight at me without considering any sort of maneuvering whatsoever. Like there he is. He's just coming right at me, and I can fire countermeasures, but missiles don't miss. So whatever. Right now it's suck it up. They're gonna hit you, especially if you're in Freelancer. But I mean, oh yeah, here goes that. Oh, yeah, I can see.
Boom,
look at that AI. Didn't even bother veering off. It's just like ramming speed.
Troy, the most damage you've taken is by rammed.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, I mean, so the AI is still doing a lot of what the AI always does. I was like, and I actually went towards that on purpose. I was like, okay, is this thing gonna veer off? Because they said they wanted to give them all this avoidance and things, and I was like, okay, well, I guess it's not gonna happen. Whap.
And you can also see you've just been completely shredding everything. It's down to one engine.
Yeah.
It's gonna get blown off here in a second, and it just sits there and takes it. And maybe that's something for the Connie, but I think maybe it's like another bad game design showing through.
Yeah, and here's the odd thing too: when you get the Connies down to this point, like you can't really do much damage to them anymore. It's like you're shooting a dead hull. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want things to just instantly pop. In fact, if I was the crew of that ship, I'd want the ability to get out and get to an escape pod. So I'm not against that. I just think it's interesting on the arena commander side of it, where basically the thing is just going to kind of most times when you're fighting most times when you're fighting a Connie, you get it down to the point that's lost all its engines, just spinning. You just let it float away until it goes off the map. It's the best thing for it, really.
Especially ammo weapons.
Yeah. And that's really the big thing too, trying to get used to flying with the Warthog as opposed to dual sticks. And I mean, because I got my Mavs on the new stick, so I'm trying to get used to I keep instinctively wanting to use my left hand for Mav maneuvering, and like it's like when I went back to pitch and roll flight, the normal left and right of the stick is roll. And it took a long time for me to get the muscle memory map back up. So this is the same kind of thing here too. I'm trying to use, I'm trying to basically avoid having muscle memory that conflicts with my DCS playing, because it's really just too hard to, you play one game, you swap back the other, and then you're just crashing into things because you're doing it backwards.
Now, there was a post on the forum that you linked, and they were talking about how everything is working at 100% power right now.
Yeah, that was by Calix. He had stated that currently weapons, shields, and engines are always running 100% of the time, and they should actually be distributing the power between themselves. So at best 33, 33, 33, and 33 repeating. But with the system right now, everything's getting 100, 100, 100. So that's a very interesting thing to me, because if that's the case, then when that comes online, things are going to massively change again. You see, their weapons won't be able to be fired as long, your shields aren't going to be as strong, your engines aren't going to be as fast. So what I'm wondering when it comes to the pacing and things like that with the changes that are in here, if it's going to basically cut everything, potentially speaking, down to 1/3 of what it is now. And why I'm happy about having the power distribution split is because, well, frankly, you see it in a lot of older games. I mean, you have to choose between weapons, shields, and engines. It's not uncommon. But also as well, it may create a situation where people, if you have 6 guns, like say on the Hornet, you're not firing 6 guns. You have a reason to have different weapons, because in a combat power balance, you may only be able to fire 2, maybe 3 weapons, and then you have these additional ones that you switch to. So you bring along something that works in different circumstance or different situation. And I'm hoping that that's the case. Now, I can see larger ships, like, for example, let's go back to our personal favorite, the Retaliator, a ship that's basically made as, it's going to have enough power to run those turrets. But once again, how much can those turrets fire? How much do you dedicate to shields? How much do you dedicate to the engines? You go full speed, decouple, ramp down the power of the engines just to spin it, rotate it slowly, and then ramp that engine power back to the turrets. Let your turret gunners deal with people. I mean, and this comes back to multi-crew too, because where you can have advantages then on ships like the Super Hornet and anything up the line that's got multi-crew, is that they're going to be able to go ahead and manipulate these systems in a way on the fly, in a way that someone sitting in a solo fighter is not going to be able to do. If they let you say presets and things like that, that'd be fine. That would be pretty common, actually. You'd have, like, an attack preset, or a defense preset and a running preset, for example, and you could swap between them. And of course, these power swaps should have a time where it doesn't happen instantly. Things have to move around. Power has to move around. It has to be kind of a
batteries have to be charged.
Yeah. It's a conscious choice. It's not something you just do on a whim. And I'm curious to see how that changes everything again. As I said, this what we're looking at right now, everything about it, and people talking about how things are overpowered, it's because, well, they are. And that's really just the best way to put it, that everything is overpowered. And I guess, I don't know if that's going to come online before we get to 3.6. I would imagine it's something that's, not fully finished for 3.5. Maybe it'll, because they've already talked about how, like, the 350R and the other 300 series are going to come out after it goes to quote-unquote live, which would be great, because I want to fly my 350R and, actually have it, see what the new model looks like and things. Well, I've looked at it in the hangar, but I want to see it in action. But so it's very possible that we're going to not only see these big patches, like, the full releases, but these not really major releases, but I wouldn't really call them minor either. These mid-level releases as we go along, and from here on, actually, as they add more of these systems.
Boom.
Missile spazzing out. Doesn't know what to do anymore. I'd probably shoot myself with a missile.
There comes the Cutlass, which was incredibly tanky. It still technically is, but against 4 size 3 Gatling guns, it's not as tanky as you might want it to be. yeah. It's the miss is pretty brutal, actually. I was really surprised. I was really surprised. I was thinking, so I need to strip these Gatling guns off this thing? Is it really going to be worth my keeping them on there? And it's like, okay, yeah, it kind of is. And you can see a random tangent here. I would love to see the Freelancer remodeled and have a turret up here in the cockpit section, and removed from the rear section, but allow it so it can still shoot backwards. Because if you think about it, there's 4 seats up here in the cockpit. Okay, so a pilot, he can also be a gunner, because, you know, pilot-controlled weapons, right? So a co-pilot. Well, a co-pilot could be energy management, right? But then you still have 2 other seats. I mean, sensors? Maybe? That's pushing it a little bit. 4 seats is incredibly over...
The freelancers are odd. I mean, to me, like, I almost look at them as... you could be hired out as doing... be like a passenger liner, because you got 4 beds, 4 seats, and the ship could basically be run solo. So, you know, it's one of those things that it's very interesting to me. Like, I would, like, for example, if my freelancers, when the blades come in, I'm going to be making that turret automated in the back. I mean, why wouldn't I? Because then I could actually get rid of that little ramp thing on the Freelancer Max, for example, and then put vehicles in it, because I won't have that stupid little bar that comes down for manning, because it'll be an automated turret. So, yeah, generally speaking, that's...
Odds are it'll still be there, and you'll still be, you know, plagued by it for all time.
You may be right, but a person can hope.
That's why I suggest a very small remake, because you know what you could do, because you have 4 seats, and 2 of them are in the back that don't really do anything. You could, I don't know, make a remote turret, and that big huge screen could be a camera.
No, absolutely, yeah. I agree. I think that with all the seats, a remote turret absolutely would be a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and that's just me. You know, what do I know?
Well, you're coming from the experience of Retaliator, so.
Well, I mean, the whole idea that Chris wanted when he first pitched the game is he wanted it to be more like World War II, and you talk about your B-17, right? You know. Well, realistically, basically, once the plane was up in the air, or even on the runway, you got into your turret seat. Like, the ball gunner was probably the only person who ever ran to his seat, because it was a very cramped area. But I believe that was, you know, like, shortly before, like, okay, we're over enemy territory. It's time to get in. You know, it wasn't like everyone's just, you know, sitting around the table BSing, and it's like, oh crap, we're under attack. Everyone run to the turrets. So, I mean, no disrespect to Chris, but he romanticizes World War II a lot more than it really was. So, that's why it is like it is. But even in World War II, we had remote turrets. You know, that whole B-29 thing? So, you know, I don't mind the idea of manned turrets. Like, I think the Hammerhead, I think, is a great example of well-done manned turrets to some degree. I believe we've got remote in newer ships like Valkyrie or something, and I know there's some. So these older ships, we'll call them first ship ITIS and second string ITIS, they need to be brought up. And unfortunately, I think the Freelancer is another one of those. I know it had a redesign, but with so much push for automated or remote turrets, it really needs an upgrade. And I think having a, you know, whatever turret that would be just above the cockpit, I think would be one of the best things for it.
What it actually needs first priority is get rid of these reflections, because
yeah, like that was kind of assumed.
Yeah, I know. I mean, these reflections are I get the idea of wanting to have some, you know, to some degree, but like some sort of indicator that there's something there. It's not just a hole in the ship. But these reflections have been too much for a long time. I think frankly they need to just get rid of reflections on windows. It's really bad in the mist ships, because they have these curved glass windows and whatnot, and they're all one big pane and things like that. Especially, like, you know, in the Prospector, this kind of thing needs to go. I know it has nothing really to do so much with the gimbals and whatnot, but and the combat. Well, it doesn't to some degree. If you can't see where you're going, you know, that does affect combat a little bit.
If you can't see what you're shooting at, it's really hard to shoot it.
But overall, I think this system is not bad. It's a good starting point. It's a tier 0. Now, what I would like to see, as you can see, well, maybe not right now because of the. Let's wait till I pull off here a little bit, because this is come on. just blue on blue on blue. It's not good at all.
Almost
there. Okay.
Nope.
And then I had to go and kill it. So it was like
past you is not cooperating. Here you go. There's more glares.
Past me is fighting with current me. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so what I'd like to see is like, okay, blades for upgrades on this in the future. Like, okay, you take a computer slot and that circle size is increased. Like the size it is right now is your tier 0 default systems that come on a ship. Now, if
standard issue.
Yeah, standard issue. Now, if you get an upgrade, maybe the circle gets bigger, and it tracks less effectively the further you get from the center, but it does track. So, you know, you got like an aim assist blade. So your ship has like 3 blades. Okay, let's use that example. You put 1 aim assist blade, it gets a little bit bigger. You can put 2 aim assist blades, it gets a little bit bigger than that. And maybe you can put a 3rd one in, but your guns don't have that kind of motion. So they're like, no, that'd be a waste. And you're sacrificing something. You're saying, okay, well, I'm not going to have a auto shield regulator anymore, or whatever, because whatever those blades end up being, you're giving up something. But this is your tier 0, no blades needed, but you can use your guns and they're going to track a little bit kind of system. And then, like, okay, good example. Think of the Freelancer commercial where the guns pop out to the side and he shoots, you know, the guys to the side of them. Okay, maybe that's your 3-blade setup, you know, where the guns run independent and they just go ape. And they can just fire things in the full motion range. You know, that would be an example of taking that to the most logical progression of the system. Of course, based upon what they've already showed is possible with the Freelancer. But you have to give up on other things. So I would like to see them take this system to the next level as far as blade upgrades. Maybe there's blades that don't increase the size, but increase the accuracy. Or the ability.
That guy just flew into the big laser.
Yes, he did, because that's the AI. I thought myself when I saw that initially, like, I need those bullets. I thought I don't need them that badly. So
yeah.
I figured that would be funny. It's like it's the only death I'm going to get, and I don't die. It's just spoilers. Anyway. So I was thinking the only death I'm going to get this entire battle is going to be me flying over trying to pick up ammo. It's not worth it.
Go out of bounds, fly through the death laser.
Yeah, exactly. But there's with a good system, and this system does need tweaks, but if the system is made good, there's a lot that can be done with it for modifications in the future. They talked about how they want to let us modify our weapons, modify this and that on the ships, these blade systems, all of it. So this is about a baseline. This is a workable baseline. It needs to be, it's not that it's partially that it tracks really easy, but it's also because the AI is dumb as a box of hammers, and let's just chalk that large part of the equation up to it. But I'm happy that I can finally use my Freelancer, any of my Freelancers, weaponry without having to just try to dogfight with immobile fixed Freelancer guns, because the ship isn't made for that. That's not what it is. So I had fun. I actually enjoyed using my Freelancer for the first time in a combat scenario. And I think it's a good first move. And I do encourage everybody to be patient, to give feedback on what you think needs to be changed. Here's the thing. Don't go in the forum screaming, get rid of it, this is the worst thing ever, it needs to go away, blah, 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 blah. It's not going to go away. This is like gravity. This stuff, the fact that they went away from it, from the initial, when it came to the game, everything was gimbaled, everything tracked very similar to this. It worked. It went away, and they went to point-and-click targeting. Now, there is something that doesn't need to exist anymore, and that's IM. Because you can't balance all these modes and all these like different types of. There's the focus, there's the fixed assist, and there's this one, the
ESP.
Right, yeah. And you don't even need ESP anymore if you got a system like this. Just let's cut some of the band-aids out a little bit. ESP exists because of IM, and IM exists to control gimbals, and it can only be controlled by one controller on one mode. Now we have a universal system. I started this whole thing talking about universal controls. Things need to be universal. Well, we're there now. Get rid of the cancer.
I love how your missiles are worth 14. Oh, there's 7 points for your missile, but your guns are like blah 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 blah. It's like 1,000.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a Connie too. They have a high. I was probably hitting the shields on the Connie.
Ah, yes, that explains it.
Yeah. But yeah, this isn't going anywhere. It'll be tweaked. It'll be modified. It'll be changed. You know, there'll be all sorts of different things added to it later. Signature dragon kills. Hopefully that would be something that would be a little bit more interesting. But anyway, so that's really all I wanted to say about that, and I think that it's a good starting point. This is one of the things that I'm very glad to see starting to happen, because the game has been all about pixel perfect accuracy, precision, and hopefully with systems like this, that was a
oh man.
Want new teammates, please. Anyway, with the new systems that come in, we can start seeing a lot more focus move off of just pixel targeting and just go ahead and focus on flying and maneuvers. And that guy is going psycho.
I wonder if we're getting phantom thrusters, because that's a thing.
Wow, look at that guy. I would not want to be in that ship. Yeah. So on that rotational note, I think we'll go ahead and end this particular odd BlastCast, where I just wanted to kind of demonstrate and talk about what was on our mind looking at it, and kind of go out here letting the skies spin into oblivion. All right, everyone.
Bit of a live cast.
Yeah, kind of a live cast. All right, everyone. We will
live for us anyway.
Live for us. We'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Woo! Spin it.